Hi, this is your particular print, where we seek to understand humanity one person at a time, and the first person is you. So I'm going to start this English YouTube channel. Many people, or I would say most people, know me for my Spanish YouTube channel, Hispanic speaking YouTube channel, but I want to give my input in also the English community, since that's where most of the community is really, but I am seeking to grow the Hispanic community. But I want to just give my own information into the English speaking community, so to affect it more directly also. And like, if I just had to start with something regarding Socionics and the typology community, I would just start by saying the contrast between the definitions that are used in, let's say, classic Socionics, so the original writings from Austra, and that they really do contrast with MBTI, because a little bit of a trap that you fall into if you come from MBTI, which really most people do, like everybody does come from MBTI. So a little bit of a trap is to think like, oh, this is really just the same. So just first things to consider. Different Socionics schools really do have different interpretations for some things, for some concepts, for some elements, in which some cases then they may even give you a different type. It can really be that much of a big difference. So I would say step number one, if you're coming from MBTI and want to learn Socionics, which you definitely should, I would highly encourage you to. You'll see that it's really, MBTI is just a thing of the past. It's a relic of history, but it's not worth using today as a tool. It's really not adequate anymore. It's insufficient, really. I promise you. Okay, you can dig on your own, but I promise you this is the case. So Western Socionics, which is actually a lot of information you will bump into if you just type Socionics in Google, actually does have a lot of things in common with MBTI. It's sort of like a MBTionics. This doesn't really exist. I just came up with the name, but it's something that is in between Socionics and MBTI. It's like it takes both of them and bends them together, which you could say it sounds like a good thing, but it's really not. It's really not. I really don't recommend this approach that much. Why? Not just because of some arbitrary hating or just, oh, I just shouldn't do this. Like, by all means, if you find it preferable, go ahead. It's just that I do not, and I'll tell you why. When I read the document Socion, or the Foundation of Socionics, there you will find some very, very precise definitions for the information elements or information aspects. So in MBTI, they use the cognitive functions, which are originally from Jung. Jungian cognitive functions is the one that everybody knows: sensing, intuition, feeling, and thinking. Those are the Jungian cognitive functions. So in MBTI, they bend them together with introversion and extroversion to form the TI, TE, FI, etc. So these TI, TE, and things in MBTI, they will be called cognitive functions as well. And MBTI will tell you have 4 cognitive functions. Then John Beebe model tells you, no, you do have 8, all 8 of them in this, and this is how they manifest. Okay, so we have that. But in Socionics, it's really almost like a science that grows on its own in parallel. So it's not just like a mental process, it's information from reality and how you process it, how you interpret it, and then how you also produce it. We can also produce information. When learning these new concepts, I really recommend you to try to have your mind in blank. Just clear out your mind, really try to forget everything you know from MBTI if you want to learn this. Then, as you learn it, you can make the comparisons, but really try to forget everything you know about MBTI when learning this. That being said, I will give you the definitions, these very, very precise and clear definitions of the information elements. So there are many ways in which you can distinguish them or put them in different categories. Probably the most known one comes from Jung, which is introverted, extroverted. But in an attempt to teach you Socionics, I will use one of Socionics' dichotomies, which is static versus dynamic. So yes, you do have introverted and extroverted in these elements, but you also have static and dynamic. And what this is just as it sounds. Static is set information and dynamic is continuous information. You will see in a second that this really just makes sense. So starting with static elements, we have SE, NE, TI, and FI. These four will come together in a ring, what is called a ring, or I would say it's like an information cycle, and they're all set information. You could interpret it as set values. Why is this? So I'll start by SE. So SE is the appearance or aesthetic of an object. You could also speak about collisions or borders. So the appearance of an object. So here we will use an object to use these definitions. So imagine an object, just imagine a cube or whatever. So the appearance of things is SE. You can see just right away it's very different from MBTI. So yes, continue to forget everything you know so you can take in this new information. So SE is the appearance of and aesthetics of objects. The appearance has to do with a certain collision, a texture. Texture is also important. So SE is about aesthetics. So aesthetics is like a set value. Things look in a way. They have a certain way of looking, and that's set. That's that. It can change. It's not that it can't change. It's just that it's a set value that then it will change to another set value. There's a clear distinction. So then you have NE. NE is also very interesting because, again, forget everything you know. NE is about the inner potential, or you could say inner characteristics of an object. Yes, an object, but then we can apply it to people. Yes. So inner characteristics, again, is static. So I always think of NE like, for example, is something flammable. The thing will have that property or not. You can also apply this concept for, if you apply it to people, you can say, for example, is someone talented? Well, you could say talent can be like a skill, can be developed. Let's say that if we're talking about an internal structure and internal capability, like something that's already is internally. In this way, it's way more, let's say, realistic than MBTI, because in MBTI everyone says, oh, it's just possibilities. It's just any possibility you could imagine. So NE in Socionics is about the internal capabilities or talents. So what something could be, but it's not like a fantasy. It's not like, oh, anything I can imagine. No, like what can it realistically be, taking into account what it is. Again, that's why it's static. So then let's move on to the introvert aesthetic. So TI is again also very different. And I really like this explanation because it just entirely wipes out the concept of TI being intelligence. Yes? Okay, so TI based is intelligent, TI suggestive or polar is not intelligent. Forget about this. TI is about the position of an object in space. Its position, its coordinate. This may sound very different. Again, try to keep your mind focused on this new information and forget what you already know. If you then rather to use the older definitions, that's fine, but you do you, but have an open mind to these new concepts, well, that there will be new to you. So position in space, that sounds a bit abstract, a bit maybe, but if you think about it, so what does position imply in society? Social roles. This can be like, for example, in a job, someone is the boss. We're talking about positions. So the boss, the supervisor, that's in a job. But you can say also in a family, the mother, the father, the brother, or political roles, the president, the king, etc. And again, it's static because a position is a fixed coordinate. So now moving on to FI, there might be an overlap with what you know about FI, but it's a bit more specific. So FI is not values just like that. FI is more specifically the forces of attraction or repulsion. So you could say it's in a way like a bit similar to TI, because TI is positions, but FI is about the attraction or repulsion. So how you feel in regards to something. Do you feel attracted to it, or do you feel repelled by it? We could do a contrast here between TI and FI, in TI being, well, this is my boss, I have to do what he says because that's his position, and in my position I just have to do whatever he or she says. Whereas FI is more about, I don't like him. I know he's my boss, but I'm not feeling attracted. It's not only in a romantical way, but I don't like him or her. That's the information, the attraction or repulsion. So now moving on to the dynamic ones, we'll start with SI. Again, SI is very different from MBTI. Because of the JP thing with the MBTI, SI almost feels like you're a rational type. Like sometimes it might be described as that. But again, just let's not get into that. Just forget it for now. So SI is dynamic. SI is the internal state of the object. This is how its environment, how its surroundings affect it. Let's be more specific. If you're in a cold environment, you'll feel the cold. If you're in a warm environment, you'll feel warm. If there's a lot of heat around you, you'll get thirsty, etc. It's about your internal state. So that's why it's dynamic, because it's always changing. It's not something that is really fixed. Like, yes, you can be specific about, oh, I feel hungry, but hungry is just like it's a continuous. Yes, it's not really a fixed state or like a position or everything that we already mentioned. So SI is the internal state of the object, which is always changing. Then moving to NI, you'll see Jungian NI is a bit confusing. MBTI NI, similar, yes. I don't know if they really did much to make it clearer, but in Socionics, NI is the continuous of time and events. So it makes sense why is dynamic. Events happening in time, there's no really stopping. There's no really a fixed point. They're just events that blend in all together. Time is a continuous, so that's why it's dynamic. It's dynamic information. So TE is about movement in space. Yes, TI is about position in space, and TE is about movement in space. Simple as that. I told you this is very simple and very easy. T is movement. Simple as that. So what else does this mean? So movement is about methods, it's about rules, how we are going to do things, how if we remain literal, how we're going to move the objects through space. That's why it involves methodologies. And I will personally say here that in classic socionics, they mention that money is in regards to SE. But I'm not sure how much of this might be a translation thing or what, because yes, riches, possessions are SE, but money is a dynamic thing. Money is changing in its value. So I'm going to dare to say that money is more regarding TE because of the movement aspect, because of the dynamic aspect. Yes, riches, possessions like cars, jewelry, houses, all of that is regarding SE. Yes, but TE, because it's movement, I would say it's about finances, economy. Because again, it's movement, it's moving, it's continuous. Money, it's always changing in its value. So it's not really static. Yes, it makes sense. The movement is not something static. The static information is the position. But once you get moving, it's dynamic. Well, this makes sense. Yes, movement is dynamic, as simple as that sounds. And then the last, extroverted dynamic element would be Fe. This is pretty much the same as far as I've seen in all school of Socionics, is the emotional expression. So going to the original descriptions or definitions, Fe would be it may sound a bit similar to Si, but it's changes occurring inside the object. So let's remember a bit. Si is the internal state, so how the environment affects it. Fe is the internal changes. So if we apply it to humans, to people, this means the emotional changes, the mood, like you can feel angry, then sad, then frightened. And all this is not really a fixed point. Emotions are like waves. Emotions they come and they go. They don't really last. They don't really last. You feel them, but then the emotion passes. That's how you can difference them from Fi and Fe. Because Fi is like a set value of I don't like you. And that sentiment won't change unless it does, and then it will be like another set value. Like I like you, now I don't like you. This is set information. Whereas Fe is more as a continuous. It's I feel frightened, but now I feel kind of sad. Now I feel kind of angry. They're all changing. Human emotions are not really set, are not really static. They change. Even if they last, they're not really a fixed state. So yes, that would be the very, very, very brief descriptions of the information elements as described by classic Socionics, or the document called Socion, or the Foundation of Socionics. I'm hoping this can help people in also the English community to make this distinction, because something I've seen happening a lot is that you come from MBTI, you jump into Socionics, but you think it's just the same thing. It's a very common mistake. I wish I was told sooner that they're not, or the clear distinctions in why and how they're not the same. So you see, MBTI doesn't really have any such distinction as a static dynamic. They use other tools, other concepts for distinguish them. They mainly use introversion and extroversion. They'll say, so Fi is energy flowing inwards and your personal values and whatever, and Fe is like external values. That they'll use other metrics. Yes, so when coming to Socionics, just forget all of that. So that's really it. That's explanation for the 8 information elements as just distinguished by static or dynamic. So if you found this information helpful, be sure to leave your like, leave your comment, and share this video to that friend you know who can get into Socionics or just typology, personality typology in general. And expect more videos in here. I'll be covering any topics Socionics that may be relevant, and they may still need a better explanation than what we currently have. So yes, I will be seeing you soon. Thanks for watching.